shared it on
People share.
Facebook.
Danny Barlow is in there. Yeah, we're in the house live, and we got a special guest for you tonight. Let's hope everybody we can see. Oh, we can see all right. This, my friend, is no under than Projo. Projo in the house today. We have a guest. Let's get some hype in the chat for Projo. Haven't seen you in a long time, buddy. You've been taking care of things, got a job, getting all real in the world, right?
I'm doing a lot of freelance stuff covering the ECHL with our Reading Royals mostly. And then I did the Lehigh game last night where that was one of those kick in the pants losses because you go down 3-0, don't play a great game, come all the way back in the third just to lose. So, but it's been fun. It's definitely been fun, and it's fun to come back. I'm sharing us out on Facebook now, and
Sweet.
everybody obviously it would be helpful if you do the same. Spread the love,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. That's always helpful.
So what do we got here? Like these guys make the content right here. They're always in there. Danny Barlow is in the house. Danny Barlow rocks. He started coming here a little while ago. Uh, Chicago and Washington won. Um, yeah, I didn't really like that game, but Chicago. I'll tell you that new coach has got them playing some defense. Right? Did you watch or did you happen to be able to catch any of that game? They're playing some defense there. Implicit. Oh my gosh, implicit. They haven't been around in a while.
So yeah, they're definitely playing better since he's come in. That game I only watched the condensed game, where the game I was able to catch a good bit of live was the Kings and Capitals by the time I got back from Lehigh Valley last night. But yeah, they played it was obviously the battle of two of the bottom feeder teams, but where the Kraken generated a good shot total. But obviously Fleury and net was actually up to the task. It was one of his best performances of the season, if not his best. So they were able to get away with a win there and play a better, at least let them get shots, but try to not generate as much. Oh my God, we're hanging our goaltender out to dry, like they were doing early in the season, where they just look like a complete cluster
Wow.
mess on the ice, where they're looking a lot more solidified, which I think is basically what you were saying as
On
well.
the opposite end of the spectrum, Seattle is actually. I was just looking it up today, and I know I usually don't do stats. I got to get into stats a little more, especially for the show. People say, well, Seattle's defense hasn't been that great, but actually, they are only allowing 26 to 27 shots a game. It's not the defense. It's what I was afraid of when they signed Grubauer. He hasn't been very good this year, has he?
No, but goaltending's kind of like it's not as much so as relief pitching in baseball, but it is so back and forth at times where you have a guy that has that really hot year, then he kind of goes on this like polar vortex for a period of time, and then all of a sudden he has a start that he snaps back into reality, to use a song quote. And then he all of a sudden just kind of flies from there. So I feel like goaltending's kind of we hit that prediction on the head. I've been wrong about certain guys when I came to predicting them before. Like we both
Oh,
were not as right about UC Soros, who of course has figured it out and has become one of the NHL's best down in Smashville, Nashville down there. So you're right on some, wrong on others, but I think I'm usually a guy that tries to now just be patient with goaltending since it's a back and forth thing, and it's a new team that plays. They look all right in terms of shot allowance, but they don't always look like they play. They play a competitive game, but those guys are still figuring each other out. They don't look together yet per se when you
yeah.
watch the team on the ice. Like they're not fully in sync, definitely.
Yeah, they got to go. They got a couple guys that are kind of pulling the weight right now. Tanev, Schwartz, I mean, Eberle, and you know, and besides that, defense. The problem with thought from the beginning was that there's it's difficult for them to move the puck. They're not really having the most mobile, not mobile, but stick happy defensemen there, I like to call it. So they're great at getting the puck off other people's sticks, but not the greatest at getting out of the zone, and makes it difficult for transition. But they are preventing a lot of shots, which is good.
Yeah, well, that's how Larson. Yeah, you just described Larson, Adam
Yeah.
Larson, to a T. Great at getting the puck off of opponent's stick.
Mm-hmm.
Not oh so great at making that outlet pass to get the puck back up the ice. That's why if you can team him with somebody that can do that, like Cliff Bomb during some of the time in Edmonton, it works out because then you have a guy that can make that outlet pass. There, they don't necessarily have the consistent outlet passers like you just said. So
Yeah. Dunn is supposed to be that, but he's struggling like he was in St. Louis. He makes some really weird moves sometimes, and he's very frustrating to watch because
he gets too crafty. He gets too
yeah,
crafty at
that's
times.
right.
I think is an adjective to use.
Yeah.
Where if he just played a more simple game, he has the talent to be a good defenseman. If somebody just helped him not oversimplify, but simplify his game.
CL, thanks for coming in, buddy. Yeah.
Hey, hello, Flyers.
Yeah, no, Dunn is frustrating to watch because you can see the talent. He's slick. He's a very slick defenseman, but it's like like you
Good
said, he
skate.
tries to overdo it sometimes and make plays that aren't there. He's a work in progress. If somebody sticks with him though, and his attitude is right, I don't know. I know in St. Louis, Berube just got tired of him. There was a bad thing that happened there in St. Louis. And he was on the trade block almost instantly. I don't know if it was ice related or maybe he said something to Berube. You know, he's young, right? So maybe he might be a little bit on the big head about him and he doesn't want to listen or something like that. And that makes it difficult. So, but 3 goals last night for Chicago. Was it 3? Did it end up being 3?
Four.
Was it 4? 4 goals.
Four.
4 goals for Chicago.
Yeah, 4-2.
And Seattle looks like they just don't believe in themselves too. That's the worst part. When you stop believing in yourself. And I think that started right at that Arizona game. In the third period, they looked like they were so afraid to lose they could never win. I don't know if you watched it, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
did, right?
yeah. That makes sense.
Didn't it look like that to you?
Yeah, I mean that's why I kind of use the word togetherness. Like they look like they're still kind of in that lost period of their team where they like the Vegas we didn't see that with. But other expansion franchises were not Vegas, where they didn't all of a sudden go somewhere and go, "Oh my God, we're in the Stanley Cup." Some teams took a while, and some teams never made it. Thrashers. So like you had certain instances that expansion teams were not the keen success right away, and that's just what Seattle unfortunately is. Now they do play like yesterday; they got a good amount of shots on net. It's not like they played an abysmal
No,
overall
that's the
game.
thing.
It
Yeah,
was just that yeah, they don't play a together pace yet that they're just really riding and going, and it's because you don't have the same guys. The teams learned from the mistakes they made, especially a GM like Chuck Fletcher learned from the mistakes he made. When it came to the expansion draft prior with Vegas, that you had good guys available, but not guys to the level of how like a Marshall show turned out, even an Alex Tuck who's no longer in Vegas, but how he had his career year there and that he really showed off his scoring ability. You didn't have necessarily the same comparables available. You still had good guys, but because teams learned from the past experience. So
yeah. It's a different team. All right, I think, and I brought this up before on the stream, that I think there's an aspect here that the way this team is built, the difference between the Vegas team and the Seattle team is I think there's a kind of a little bit of a elephant in the room hanging over their head that if they don't make it close to the playoffs by the time trade deadline comes, there's going to be a lot of guys moving. Where you didn't have that with Vegas. Vegas picked players that were going to be there, and they were told that right from the beginning. So they were playing with an air of confidence, at least, that they knew they were going to be in the city. They're going to stay there. They're not going to have to move their family and all that stuff like that. But Seattle looks like a team where, like, say, a guy like Dunskoy, who's having a god-awful season so far. It probably is adding a lot of extra pressure that, if he's got a family and all that, if I don't play up to par, if we don't make it to the playoffs, I'm probably going to be traded at the deadline. And that's difficult to have on the back of your mind, especially with the team that's just trying to figure things out. It's hard motivation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's definitely that's entirely true. I did I lose you? Hello?
No, I got you.
Oh, okay. It's all like messed up. But no, that's hard. It's hard motivators when you obviously don't have the knowing if you're going to be there, where they were more committal when it came to Vegas. But I also think that has to go with the point of what I was making, where you didn't have the same necessarily degree of talent available here, because players and not players, GMs learned more to keep certain guys and not trade to keep other guys. Like I used the Fletcher example because he had the guy like Tuck, and then Florida obviously would probably still like to have Marsh or so. So like people learned and got rid of guys that were a degree under those guys, and that's also why you're seeing not as much success at the beginning of Seattle. It'll probably turn to be them being just this competitively bad team like we all projected them to be coming into the season. It's just right now it's being magnified by the fact that the goaltending is not as good as we thought it would be.
Yeah, and what was it? Oh, and in Vegas they had general managers didn't have anywhere near enough time to start correlating their roster for what they wanted to do. They gave them like Seattle. They had a lot longer to. They knew they were coming in and they could construct their roster in a way that they're not going to give up as much as they were before. With Vegas, it was like boom, we're going next year pretty much, right? And we're running for the cup, and you're like, trying to make the playoffs and everything like that. It was like, what did we sell these guys up? What do we do here? Their leverage wasn't as good with Vegas as they were with Seattle. So he basically just took the best guys he could. And I think the whole time in Seattle, though, the idea was not to do what Vegas did, anyways. They were looking to grab guys that have value that they can trade at the deadline. And I think that's pretty much full, fairly, quite a bit. There's a lot of knowledge of that in the room there, which makes it a lot tougher to um, feel like you're part of a team. Like you said that this team doesn't look like a team, but it's harder to feel like a team when you're not really sure if you're going to be there. You know, where Vegas it was like for sure they were going to be there. So moving on, I'll get on to a team. Man, so much to talk about with this team now because the Vancouver Colorado game last night, one of the better Vancouver games I've seen that Vancouver has played last night, but they still couldn't pull it out. Uh, do you see any direction to this team at all? Oh, did I lose you? Oh, shoot, I lost you. Oh.
Hello?
Okay, you're back there. You're back there. It's not working. Can you guys hear me all right? Everybody hear me all right out there? Sorry.
Hello?
I'm trying to get him back here. Can you hear me all right?
Hello?
Yeah. Let's see if I can get an NDI source on you. Yeah, let's see if I can get an NDI source on you. You got your camera on? Turn your camera on. Is it on? For some reason, you're not coming through on my NDI source, though. Oh, maybe that's why. Okay, that's right.
Your camera's not on for mine. Mine's on mine. Yeah, my camera's on Skype, yeah. I just redid it. Is it on now? You might have picked the wrong source because sometimes there's a couple different. Huh, that's weird. Yeah, it just has the Skype source. Huh. Yeah, I think I just heard.
Yeah, it just has the Skype source.
Yeah, I just heard myself through the video for some reason, even though the camera's on my Skype. And at least they can hear though, which is not ideal. At least they can hear me for the time being. But one thing we did skip over that Denny made a good point of is Susie. You talked about it before too. Is kind of one of those defensemen that plays a nice, clean game. For some reason, exactly. Yeah, they haven't. Yeah, they haven't been playing him, and he made that point. I completely agree on that point. He's a guy that's a veteran defenseman that's been at playing at the lower levels in the AHL before, been working his tail off to get to have an opportunity, which he showed out on the Wild, and now he's not getting played for some reason. I don't understand that at all. So. No, no, but at least Minnesota played him though. He's a healthy scratch. Oh, too many times in Seattle. If Minnesota didn't play him a good amount of minutes, that's at least better than not playing him at all. So I'll take that if I'm Carson Soucy over the situation that he's in Seattle right now if they're not going to play him at all. So hopefully he starts getting more playing time specifically because that'll help to kind of calm down that defense that needs that a little bit. So
Yeah. Okay, so now we got that. There we go. Should be good now. So anyways, my audio should be good. Going on back to Vancouver now. You got Vancouver. You got great goaltender, but it seemed like Benny was grasping for straws in the offseason, bringing in Ekman Larson, and well, to a lesser extent, I guess. What's his name there? All right, let me bring up Vancouver while I'm talking to you, so I know.
Connor Garland.
Garland, yeah, to a lesser extent, Garland. I mean, if you can get Garland, you got to get him, right? Like that kind of guy's a guy.
Yeah, he's a goal scorer that he's a guy that adds to the shooting mentality of your team, a guy that can just consistently put the puck in the net, and a guy that also as a non-match compete level being an undersized
brings it every night.
Comes from the fifth round, fifth rounder that ended up making the league. Those guys always have that unmatched 110% drive.
Yeah, they got pieces that you like there, and the whole thing. Now, how much Vancouver have you been able to catch so far?
I've only been able to catch. That's a team I've only been able to catch bits and pieces and more look at the overall stats lines. But I do know they're bottom in the league in goals allowed, and they're bottom in the league in goals too. So those two things are not a good combination to equate to being a successful hockey team. Yeah.
No. Peterson looks like he's trying too hard. He's doing too much. He's fighting way too hard. He's making moves, almost like we were talking about with Dunn. Peterson's sort of doing the same thing. He's over stick handling and all that kind of stuff like that. JT Miller's doing the best he can. Now, it's hard to put just a finger on one problem. I think the defense is bad. I don't know what that Tucker Pullman signing was. I don't think he's anywhere near that. He's like in a good team, he should be a guy who plays maybe half the season, something like that. And they have very little defensive depth. That is their biggest problem. They don't have a guy that can play with Hughes. Although, what's his name? Why are names just leaving my head today? Hamonic was in last night. That looked a lot better. Hamonic looked a lot better. But overall, this defense is pretty poopy. And although you got some good pieces, it's really everything. It seems like a weird fit here for Vancouver, and they're capped out. We don't know what they're going to do for the future. They can't really add. What do you think that this team needs to do? Do you have any idea? Can you look at this and give something that you may, the direction that they may want to go here?
I feel like because of what you said, when you're a hockey team in a capped out situation, it's a lot harder to be able to move some of these guys that typically you end up going to saying, well, now we have to try to get a new coach that hopefully can kind of do a revitalizing of some of the veterans and maybe get them going. And then also you have the young guys like Elias Pettersson, maybe a new guy will come in and help him. Not that Travis Green, I'm sure, isn't saying this, but a new voice will be able to get it forth a little bit differently, being a guy that he hasn't heard from before. When he kind of says, just go back to the old Elias Pettersson, just play your game loosely, and you're a very talented player. Don't overthink anything. Don't be over crafty. You're one of the most talented players in this league when you just do and don't overthink it. So, it seems like Green went from pushing all the right buttons to getting more talented players on his team, just not a well filled out roster. Now he's not necessarily pushing all the right buttons in my eyes, but part of that's also a management for overspending in certain spots. But like we said, they have good goaltending with Thatcher Demko. You also have a guy that's been a pretty good backup his entire career in Yaroslav Halak. And then you have a veteran in Hamonic. You have Ekman Larson and Quinn Hughes. That you should be able to get a little bit more, I think, as a coach. Because when I looked at OEL this year, he doesn't have the offensive numbers, but he does have better defensive numbers than he normally would have at this point in a season. So you can take the good with the bad, whatever you want to take from that point. But I think you should be doing a little bit better with the roster you have, and I think the first thing that's going to go would probably be Green.
Yeah, I think Green's probably the first to go, and I'm not so sure that's fair. That roster's pretty difficult. I think I don't know how Benning keeps on holding on here, dude. Like it's he had terrible contracts that he did try to get rid of with Ekman Larson. However, those guys they did get rid of, you can say whatever you want about Roussel and what's the center they got from Washington there that they did overpay for, that's in Arizona right now. You can say whatever you want about them, but they provided an element that they now don't have all over again. Their penalty kill is absolutely horrible, worst in the league. Beagle and Roussel.
Oh, Jay Beagle,
Jay
yeah.
Beagle, yeah. Now their penalty kill is terrible. So they
Well,
weren't
he's
able to
also
bring anybody in
faithful.
that
Yeah.
could fill the role of being on the penalty kill for a team that also takes a lot of penalties. So there's a lot of things going on here that ain't working, right?
Well, I think this team also just plays an overly like it's not just Pedersen. They're a team that has Tanner Pearson on their team, who's a good player, crashing the net. Excuse me, and then you have another guy as a young player, who's 6'2", 191 in Yorho Lamico. So you have guys that can play the dirty but good game. And then you also have Mott, who's kind of just that scrappy little guy that'll go to wherever the hell you tell him to go on the ice. And then Pokolzin, who's a very good young player who has a very nice shot. So, like, you have guys that if you just said shoot the damn puck, basically, like, shoot it from anywhere, let's become basically dirty but good Mike Knuble goal scorers. You have guys that can just do that to kind of get your team going in the right direction. Even Justin Dowling is kind of a guy that's always never been afraid to go anywhere on the ice, even for his size. And then Chason obviously is a net front guy. You have guys that can score those just grinded out goals in front. I think if the Canucks oversimplify their game and Travis Green gets them to commit to doing that, that can be what saves his job, number one. But two, what also, because of the goaltending you have with Thatcher Demko, if you can just get scoring that way, even with the defense they have, you can maybe start rebounding a little bit to then kind of flatten out more in the next, I don't know, 25, whatever games to be closer to the 500 mark and actually be balancing yourself out by the time we go to, if there actually is one, the break as we get to Christmas, and then of course in February if we actually do have an Olympic one. So you can kind of balance yourself out there, but you have to be able to just simplify your game and stop being crafty in every aspect of the game.
Yeah, Wayne's in the house. Woo. So yeah, I agree. And it's funny. I was listening to Sirius Radio yesterday, and they brought up a very good point because they were asking what to do with Vancouver about, like the way they do their system or whatever the case may be. And the guy brought up an extremely good point. This team's got to get hard on the man and the stick first before you can do anything. There's no use talking about where you're going to put the puck if you can't get the puck. First of all, you got to get the puck, and then you could start working on what you're going to do with the puck after you get it. And I think that's what Vancouver's biggest problem right now is. Their guys that can go get the puck are small. Garland comes to the top of my mind. Mott, they got small grinder guys. Hoglander, who was on a 4-goal. But the good news to me from last night, anyways, getting back to the game, was that Vancouver probably did that better than they have all year. So maybe it's moving in the right direction here, and they can start. But if they don't get to doing that first, the rest of the X's and O's probably doesn't matter. And I guess that is the coach's job to get them to do that sort of thing. So
Exactly.
Yeah, so I guess, but again, it's also, do they have the manpower to do that sort of thing? And you brought up a good
Well,
Podkolzin is still a kid. Lamico is only going to be on the ice about 10 minutes a night. Like, they're big top six
exactly, but
guys.
that's why they got to play dirtier. Like, just not dirty in terms of having dirty plays, but just getting those like Bruins-esque goals that piss off every other fan base,
Yeah,
where it just goes off of a guy's foot or basically his stomach in front of the net
yeah,
because they just crash and shoot. Like, you have guys that are bigger players like Lamico. You have guys that are like Tanner Pearson that have been there, done that for Kings and other teams in his career in the net front. So you got to use that. I don't think they're utilizing that ability of their team. Even Chason, who's slow as molasses, if you still park him in front of the net, Mike Knuble was slow as molasses at the end of his career. You can still get those net front goals. So I think they're just overcomplicating a lot, and that goes on to coaching too, because you can get a team to do that if you get them to say, basically, look, if we do this, we're going to start winning games potentially more likely with the roster we have because we don't have the greatest defense in front of Thatcher, or in front of Yaroslav Halak. So you have to be able to find different ways to win. And so far, I don't think Green's pushed the right buttons for that when you have a roster that I think you could get a little bit more out of. It's not the most practical roster, but I definitely think you could get a little bit more out of it.
180. Dreisaitl's on a pace for 180 points. I certainly don't think he gets that many. I don't know, man. That guy's a beast right now. Holy crap. He is on fire. Like, his intensity when he plays is amazing. If the rest of the team could play with that same intensity, the Oilers would be a very scary team.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they've got a ton of passengers on that team, and it's starting to show its effects.
Well,
What's that?
Payton hit it on the head when I watched one of his OGRs. You guys went from trying to fix your depth with some guys that kind of are, I'm trying to think of a nice way to put it, in the twilights of their careers.
Oh, yeah.
So, like,
it's
you're,
cloudy outside, so you can't see
yeah,
any of the twilight.
yeah. So it's not working, understandably so. Where McDavid's kicking butt, Dre's kicking butt, who, by the way, is my favorite player, not on the Flyers. Kopitar's still up there with him, but and then you have obviously you have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's one of the most underrated playmakers in the game. So you have guys that are doing it. You just still haven't got the cream of the crop people that you want to mix in fully around those guys in the bottom six to actually add depth. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You asked me about a need for what I think the Canucks would do with their needs for them. The biggest need for the Oilers, other than goaltending potentially, is adding depth. And if Mike Smith comes back and kicks butt again, it would probably be the biggest need uh, over goaltending, because you need to have depth. If he's playing well, Koskinen's not great, but he at least held the fort down during the time Smith was injured. I would actually honestly have to prioritize depth in order to get deeper in the playoffs if Mike Smith keeps playing like he did last season and plays like he did in the run to the playoffs. So that's kind of where I'm at with that team. But
We'll get in more in the Oilers when we start talking about the games for tonight. And you want to stick around for that, because we're going to talk about a potential trade target that's out there right now. But we won't get into that now, because we're going to continue on last night's games and some of the teams and their struggles and not struggles. A little bit on the Avalanche there. They were playing shorthanded as well. Rantanen was playing center last night. He was playing center without Connor and Landeskog because they're out Comfer and McKinnon. And it looked like early it took them a little while to adjust, but once they did, they just blew the Canucks right out of the water. So the Canucks, yeah, they're just...
Also, Byram didn't play last night.
Byron didn't play either,
yeah.
But Canucks are almost an easy out right now until they can get to the point. I think if I'm a coach here, I think they tried to, though, because their penalty minutes are way high. But if I'm a coach here, I'm just like, if you aren't beating guys to the puck out there, you're sitting. Simple as that. Because that's the first thing that has to happen. It doesn't matter what happens after that. Like if I'm doing an interview with the media and they're saying like, what's the problem with Peterson? How come you're not scoring and all that kind of stuff like that? I'd be just flat out, until we're beating people to the puck, all of that don't matter. You can't do nothing if you don't have the puck on your stick, right? So, and that is his job. I think he's maybe get public about it, not to shame the guys, but just make it clear this is the focus first before we do.
Well, you hit it on the head. You have to have the puck to be successful with the puck, obviously. Right. And one of the guys you talked about that they got rid of, one of his biggest key assets, minus being a PKer, was winning faceoffs and Jay Beagle, and they're not as consistent this year either in the faceoff circle. Therefore, you're not going to be able to obtain the puck to have success either. So
right, I think Benning thought those players are somewhat replaceable, so we can find them down the road. But there's no down the road anymore.
They are, but you didn't find them. That's his problem.
That's right.
Yeah, you got guys that were not face-off guys to replace a guy that was one of the better face-off guys in all of hockey for the last probably 10 or whatever years it's been. So, like, that doesn't make any sense. So,
no, it doesn't. Okay, next one we get to is the final one, and then we'll get into all the games for tonight because there's lots. Capitals versus the Kings, and you know me, I'm high on. What's that?
I loved this game, not the result, but I loved this game.
You watched this game and you enjoyed it?
I did, because it was a pace-driven game that I got to see my boy Jonathan Quick, who's always been one of my favorite goalies, continue to have his resurgence season and keep them in a game that the Kings did make a couple defensive zone blunders that he had to save their bacon a couple times, as Jim Jackson would say, in order to obtain even getting to the point they got to, where Garnett Hathaway was, of course, able to score both goals, empty net, and then one otherwise. So I thought it was a good pace game, and it was a fun game to watch. Both goalies were good, and then Samsonov actually had a very good game, who, of course, hasn't been as sharp this season this far. He's been a little bit inconsistent, so that was very good for Caps fans for him to do that.
Yeah. I was Washington is this not. I haven't heard anybody talking about this, but and let's give it to Lavi. Washington's playing really, really, really good defense. Like really good defense. Samsonov had his best game of the year last year. He's been struggling a little bit so far this season, actually overall, really. But they played. This is a strong LA Kings team in their own barn, and Washington's on a back-to-back, right? They played in overtime against Anaheim the night before, and a tough game at that. That was a great game, by the way. I like that game. And they come into LA's barn, who have young legs. They've got some good, solid veterans there. Like you said, Quick is playing fantastic this year, which is really cool. And they shut them down, man. They shut LA down last night. I personally didn't see that coming. I knew they were playing better defensively, but this is almost starting to take it to levels I never thought they could reach.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with the injuries, too, that the Caps have had to go through, I mean, it's just exactly, I think Laviolette, I remember them talking about it on the broadcast. He talked about early in the week, they just got to get these grinded out wins at this point with the way that they're playing the game, the way that guys have been in and out of the lineup this year. You're going to get these, like I was talking about, the Canucks have to start trying to do, get the dirty but good wins, and that's what they were able to do. Have a nice pass to Hathaway that he should have scored more initially. Got a fortunate bounce after it kind of fluttered off his stick, and he scored in front of the net. And then he was able to get a empty net goal there as well. And he's another one of those players, bottom sixers, kind of Swiss Army knife guys that rush to the net and don't have any regard for their body at all and play that good rusher style game that's fun to watch. So that was a really enjoyable game. Ilya Samsonov, it talks about how, like I talked about, made it the goalie and relief pitching analogy before. You can use it in this sense too. Yesterday, I think he had a much lower save. It was like a 8-something or like a low 9-something. Now he actually, if you look at his numbers, has the undefeated record with really solid looking numbers due to his performance yesterday. So early in the season, it always goes back and forth, obviously, with your stat numbers, that then if you have another bad game, it'll go right back down. So it's nice for him to kind of be able to stabilize his numbers, and now would maybe be able to propel him into being the Samsonov everybody knows he can be, where that duo has the potential to be one of the best in the league, of course. So
Yeah, he's well. How old is Samsonov now? 24 still, right?
yeah,
He
he's
hasn't hit
just
his
entering
peak
his
yet,
prime,
but
basically, like just getting
he
into his first
he's
prime
got
year.
all the tools there. It's just I think it's just more mental than anything. But if they're playing defense like this, it's a heck easier on the mind, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like they're
Oh
playing
yeah,
they're playing absolutely fantastic defensively. And one thing about Washington is there is not too many. They're big. They got a big team. Like they're solid, grinding, big team. Like they're gonna wear you down. They right now with the injuries, the replacements maybe some of them are a little smaller. Some of them are still very very big, but they're
oh oh my God, Protus, he's he's fun to watch. That guy Alexei Protus on the ice. I mean, he's 6'6", even though he's not probably fully ready for the NHL yet, but he's 6'6" and is just an absolute force at only 20 years old. Like, imagine as he develops his overall game, what they might be able to develop him into there.
right. If anybody's wondering why you can't see Projo, it was causing a lag on our stream, so we decided to go audio style. All right, yeah. Well, I know I was kind of surprised. I kind of had LA last night. I thought on the back to back, I gotta say, it was a really gutsy, confident. They didn't look tired, Washington, and I don't know. I think Laviolette's got something here, man. I think
Hmm.
Laviolette's got something here with this team now. He's pushing all the right buttons here, and I had Washington possibly missing the playoffs this year. I have to admit, but not anymore. And Laviolette, I probably undervalued his. You know, he's been around a long time. He's been a great coach, and he's got a 2-year window as apparently they have. Well, he's bringing it. He's having those guys bring it
Yeah, he's going
every night.
for it. Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely going for it, and I'm very happy for him. A former Flyers coach, of course, I liked him during his time here. I'm happy he's not finding success in Washington. Obviously, I don't always wish Washington to have success as a Flyers fan, but I'm happy that Lavi is finding that success, and they're playing a very nice game. That they're kind of one of those teams that falls into the category that I said with Pittsburgh, where when you have Ovi, you have Backstrom, you have those guys that have been doing it for a while until they kind of miss it, especially with the young goaltending tandem. I like that good goaltending with good offensive components. Obviously, has a pretty good chance to make the postseason. So they kind of fall into that boat of like once they miss it, then I'll start saying, okay, now maybe it's time to move in a little bit of a different direction because they kind of just been that consistent with those cream of the crop players that are still there.
Right. All right. Yes, and the great Kyle Mercer, brought up Kyle Caulfield is brought up from the AHL. He got 4 points in
Yeah.
5 games. I guess last night he had 9 shots. He's been
Oh yeah.
getting shots like crazy up there. They just haven't been going in for him, but they sent him down there to build up his confidence a little bit, right? He was feeling
And he
down
did.
on himself. And he
Yeah,
did.
and
Seems like
and he did. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a guy like I have AHL TV mostly to pay attention to the Phantoms and people in their division and what have you, what they're doing. But when he gets sent down, he's a guy being a fan of both leagues, the NHL and AHL. I immediately go, oh well, guess what games I'm watching this week. So he was a guy that, yeah, just continued to light the world on fire at that level, and it ignited his confidence. And that was probably honestly the best he honestly looked for that stretch. So it really got his confidence up. That there was a projection thing that was on Instagram earlier. What you think he'll do in his first game back? And I said a goal and an assist. So that's my projection for Cole Caulfield tonight.
I hope not. I think I'm leaning Pittsburgh tonight with
Well,
Martin
they could still win. Pittsburgh could still win if Caulfield gets a goal and an assist with how much goals the Canadians could potentially allow.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Could he come back with some confidence? Maybe he pots a couple for sure. Yeah, he had a pretty poor start to the year. That's right.
He
It
did.
was
He
just
did.
a lot to go through, though. Like, geez, like Price being hurt, Weber saying there was. after a big high, and then you got this letdown of everybody leaving and stuff. It's in the media and everything, and he's just a kid. He's just a kid. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. There's no doubt about it. He's just got way too much talent to worry about it, even for a little bit. It's not the same as when they put Kokaniemi down, and they were probably using him a little too early. Caulfield did not look out of place at all, ever, from the time he was in the NHL. So I don't think this is just a little, not even really a bump in the road. It was. I thought it was actually a good move. It was a smart move by Montreal to do.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I think it was a brilliant move, like Kyle was saying too, to send him down. You have to do that sometimes. As much as a player wants to obviously never hear that again once he makes it to the show, they approached it the right way. You have to do that sometimes in the best benefit of them, and it's worked for them. They had a hell of a stretch down there, and I think it was 4 games. So he's been able to show it again, get his confidence back up, and now he can come back up and do his thing, hopefully, for the Canadians, who also are not very good in that goals allowed to actually goals for numbers either. So they're hoping Cole Caulfield, with his confidence back up, will be able to help them, especially in that goal output and points output category. So.
Right. Okay. There was one interesting thing. I always find these funny. Troy Brouwer announces his retirement. Every time I hear these things, I'm like, okay, like that. Yeah, you were already retired, were you not? But well, I love Troy Brouwer though. I just wanted to bring him up because I think he's one of those guys who never got enough fanfare when he was playing. He's one of those guys you love to watch. Played like really tough. Played it any way you wanted. And got injured doing so, and those injuries eventually saw him decline quite a bit as he got older. But a guy you really love. But wasn't he captain in St. Louis for a while?
That I can't remember off of the top of my head. You might be correct. I can't remember.
He was at least an assistant.
No, yeah, he was definitely an A. He was definitely an A during his career, but he does fit into. You nailed it on the head. He fit into that category of players we've already discussed today that just do whatever you tell them, or the Swiss Army knife guys, perfect bottom six guys that have that just absolute nonstop motor to just go for their team, kind of like the Energizer Bunny type guys, like the Pitlicks of the world that you see too. But he played a more scrappier game, obviously, than a guy like Tyler Pitlick, and could throw them down with anybody if he needed to for his team as well. So yeah, he was a guy again that you kind of, just like Gabrick officially renounced his retirement a couple of weeks ago. You kind of thought these guys were already retired, but then they officially move on and so forth, and then their contracts are different on the books rather than just being an LTIR and what have you. So,
I'm just saying.
Or being away from the game, like that guys obviously retired like that too. They're away from the game basically, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize you were still actually active in the free agency. So.
Right. Okay. Well, I think if you got a feeling, okay. Well, Mercer's starting to talk about the games tonight, so we should probably.
It is Caden Primo. I don't know if you wrote it because they have.
Oh, it's not Malton Bull. Ah.
No, they got Martin Ball, and then they got, because I looked on RotoWire, and RotoWire Hockey had Caden Primo as the projected, or not as the projected, excuse me, as the confirmed.
Because I just need a reason to say Martin Ball. But I guess I can do that anyways. Just okay. That's how it always. Every time I say Martin Ball, and the other one is Hackenpah. I love that name.
Yanni Hackenpah.
That's like the best hockey name ever.
Well, we also have Clutterbuck. We always talk about.
Clutterbuck is always good. Yeah, Clutterbuck's a good one. Yeah. You got a little Clutterbuck in your Hackenpah.
Oh, you know who this is, by the way. Yesterday at the Phantoms game, just for a quick name drop, I met who was there scouting, Paul Messier.
Paul Messier? Messier's brother?
Yeah. Mark's brother, yeah, he was scouting.
Oh, really?
Cool. Yeah.
So he's scouting for...
I have no idea. I didn't look on the sheet, but he just introduced, because he sat next to me for a minute, and like while getting ready before the game, and then I introduced myself, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Joe, I'm Paul Messier," and then we started talking for a little bit, and then he went with the rest of the scout.
Sweet. Bobby Brink. Yeah, Bobby Brink. He's got to make it, but yeah, Bobby Brink is a good one. There's some, we'll come up with some other ones as we go here. Come up with some names there, guys. Come up with some killer hockey names. Let's look at the games tonight.
Oh, Snow.
You like Snow?
Guard Snow. No, the goalie, Snow.
Okay, what about him?
That's a very good hockey name, Snow.
Oh, Mean Girl's back in the house. Woo! It was our first.
Guard Snow, yeah, that's a really good hockey name because you have snow. You kick up snow every single time you stop.
Yeah, there is related. I'll try to think of some more that are actually related to the game. Okay, tonight's games. Let's get at it. We got an hour and 10. We got quite a few games to get over, and I'm sure we'll talk about everything else, but on top of it. So we got Flames versus Sabres, and this is the reason why I want to start now, because I know I haven't been able to talk to you about each team very much. We haven't been talking back and forth much. The Sabres team here, yeah, they have been playing well. They have been playing pretty well considering their roster. But it seems like they're getting the bounces a lot too, right? Does that seem like that to you? Like they just seem to be getting the bounces right now?
I would agree, but it kind of does fit into the category of, like I said, when you're don't have the best overall roster structure, you got to find a way, and you're getting those dirty goals that piss the other team off that they're playing, but obviously make you feel nice and warm and fuzzy inside and sleep well at night. And then they're also getting good goaltending by Dustin Gatarski, who's 3-3 with a 2.70 and a 9.20, who's basically the goaltender version of some of the forwards we just described, who worked their tail off to be able to actually get a assignment in the NHL and are never going to try to look back now and keep working their tail off to stay. So he's confirmed tonight against one of the best starting goaltenders of the season. If the season stopped now, probably the Vezina winner, Jacob Markstrom. So you have two very solid goaltenders. I think that combined with the fortunate bounces, but also you get fortunate bounces when you just don't overthink it and shoot shots on net and have guys like Kyle Okposo who kind of just bring that leadership now and kind of just say, let's play, let's compete. We need to be a competitive team this year that people don't basically want to rip their eyes out while watching on the ice. And they have been that. And it's been fun to watch them at least progress to that, and seeing a guy like Okposo, knock on wood, but stay healthy this far and be able to be that great instilled leader in the locker room to help these guys along to get to where they are, at least now in the rebuild process, showing some progress finally early in the season to still be 7-6 and 0 at their current stature. So it goes combined. You have to have good goaltending to be able to get those fortunate bounces too, and you have to just kind of play unlike the Canucks, like we described earlier, and just play a more simple game, and that's what they're doing to be able to get those fortunate bounces.
Yeah. They are playing. They're doing all the right things on the ice. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you do like Dwayne, like Sutters often will say he doesn't believe in luck, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. They get outplayed and win.
They got some
quite
key
often.
injuries.
They get outplayed and win quite often too.
Yeah, but they also do have some key injuries early that are still getting, like even Anderson's day-to-day, Yokoharu, who's a nice young defenseman that I like personally, and then Middlestat, who's a forward you want to continue to develop his overall game. They're all out, and then Victor Olofsson being the biggest injury. So that goes into I think the fact of just being happy with the success rate you've seen early on as a Sabres fan this season.
Oh yeah, sure. We've been celebrating Granato right from the get-go. I mean, Granato's done a heck of a job with this team, no doubt about it. I mean, this roster should probably not even be close. First of all, he should get the Adams just to have Jeff Skinner moving around out there. Like, Jeff Skinner's playing the best we've seen him since he scored that 40-goal season.
Yeah, he's back on the power play again, and the power play won, no less, because he's actually playing really solid on the power play this season. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes it just takes, I guess, that new coach to come in to basically give you this is your last opportunity motivational talk type thing, and it seems like Jeff Skinner's definitely responding and playing very good for Don Granato and his teammates around him. Like I said, Kyle Okposo seems to be the rallying player of that team.
Middlestat reminds me of the puke kid on the Simpsons cartoon school bus. That's funny. Okay, so I think, well, look at this game in particular. I mean, the Calgary Flames, of course, Sutter has them playing well, but they just went on a kind of poopty little record here. I think a lot of it was puck luck too. It's not that they were playing necessarily poorly. Unlike Buffalo, I think with Calgary lately, things just haven't been bouncing their way.
Yeah, I mean the Flames have been. They're still 8-3. They're still sitting in a very good spot early. They're a team that this is kind of the year you want to be able to try to hit it and get it, and you're seeing Markstrom have great success early. Goudreau's looking really good early in this season. Looked great against the Flyers, firing the net from any which place, and then Lindholm's having a very good start. So you have the right components for this team, and it might be the year that you have the best shot to get deeper because you're going to also still have. If you're making a run, you're probably not going to move Johnny Gaudreau unless you get a great trade. So you still have him at least for this year. So I think this is the year you want to be able to do it, and getting through adversity early with a couple losses like they had is good for a team that has talent, obviously, on their team, but guys that haven't necessarily got as deep as Flames fans would like. That's not always a bad thing to have. They're playing a Buffalo team tonight that they should be able to beat, so we'll have to see how they come out tonight and see if they are able to play their game tonight and actually have a good more consistent game like we saw them in their first like 6 games before they've been playing a little bit, getting bad putt luck and not being as consistent in the last couple games, but still playing a good game, just not getting the W's in the end.
Yeah, like for the Philadelphia game, they grinded that game out pretty good. They have been on the
Mhm.
road for a while. Buffalo's not the team you want to go against if you're feeling tired because they are going to, like, you're not going to,
Skate, yeah.
yeah, they're going to skate. They're going to work hard. You got to have your work ethic up. You got to have your work boots on against Buffalo. But if Calgary does equal them in work, they should win this game. But let's talk about Tokarski for a second. 45 stops against Pittsburgh, and Buffalo did not look good in that game. And now they're coming off, I think this is the first game back off a road trip. I could be wrong. Tough one. Do you think Tokarski can hold this up? I know I love the story, right, of Tokarski.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think he's necessarily going to have to hold it up because also Anderson has been playing really well. He's just day to day with an upper body. He has a 2.49 and a 9.21. So as long as Craig Anderson can stay healthy and they kind of have the wise old veteran playing well there combined with the guy that's fought his butt off to always get there, I think they'll be fine with that combination. If Craig Anderson gets banged up and has an unfortunate injury where he's out for a while, that's when it'll get different. Unless if Uka Pekka or somebody like you can have somebody come up that takes the torch with Tokarski, then and that would be different. That's when it will get a little bit concerning. Right now, the fact that Anderson's just day to day, I feel like the tandem has been what is working well. They seem to have a good goaltender room now that is very motivated. Anderson to have a great last hurrah and Tokarski to basically keep himself in the league and be a guy that's on the radar for teams as a backup netminder.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think on this one? You got Calgary, I guess?
Yeah, I would have Calgary in this game because I just think obviously they are the better team. I do think it will be a close game though. If I had to make a score prediction, I honestly would go with 3-2 Calgary just because of how competitive Buffalo has been within their games. Plus, Buffalo is the home team, correct? If I'm
Yeah,
remembering
Buffalo is the
correctly.
home
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, so I would say it'll be like a 3-2 game.
Tell me this in the chat there. What do you got in this game, Buffalo and Calgary? Let's see. What we got? Wanted to look up. What did I want to look? Oh yeah, I was going to see how many games they've been on the road. This has been a long road trip for Calgary. This is a tough stretch. They had They came out of the gates on a long road trip, and now they're on a long road trip again. They had Philly, then Buffalo. I'm just checking to see how many games on the road they played so far. Their first road trip they kicked butt. They had full energy. Sutter had them barreling out there. It's taking a long time because I got the OBS going on. So 1, 2, 3. This is the fifth game. Fifth game of the road trip, and I have a feeling this will be I'm going to go with Tokarski. I don't think Tokarski's going to crap the bed tonight at all. I think he'll still play well. So
No.
I think this could be a low-scoring game. Calgary, Buffalo, and this is off a road trip wow. I think it's tough. You know what? I could see a tie here because Calgary's in the West and Buffalo is, coming off the first game on a road trip. I think both of these teams psychologically would be happy with the tie in this spot. So I could see a tie. They got the Islanders after this in 2 days. Yeah, I could see it. But I'm going to go Markstrom's playing fantastic too, right? That's the other.
Yeah, he would, like I said, probably be the Vezina guy if you stop the season right now, unless if it's Carter Hart.
Yeah. Yeah, Buffalo plus 1.5 is giving up some juice, but probably the same amount of juice you're giving up on Calgary. So might be the best play there too. Yeah, it might be. It's a little scary because if Calgary does have the legs though, like this is one of those ones that I like to. I'll make a prediction the first period. If they got their legs, I think Calgary could win this pretty handily, actually. But it's just the 5-game road trip. They could be a little heavy in the legs. So okay, yeah, Buffalo to lose by 1 is not a bad idea. Okay, let's go to the next game then. That being the Rangers and the Leafs. And the Leafs seem to have their mojo going as of a little bit there.
Yeah, as of now, this game is the lone game that doesn't have confirmed goaltenders yet. It has expected Campbell and Shesterkin, but nobody confirmed yet. When it comes now, obviously, I would expect the Toronto to play Jack Campbell. The only guy that I guess would be expected at that point would more be Shesterkin in most people's eyes. But these are both some of the most successful teams in a row. And you got a 10-3 Rangers team going up against an 11-5 Toronto team. This is obviously a matchup that I think most people would be pinpointing as maybe the marquee matchup of the night because you have two of the best teams going up against each other early in this season and two very solid goaltenders going up against each other too early in the season if the matchup is Shesterkin against Campbell. So I have a feeling this is a game that is going to be one of those battle to the end of the game type of games when you have guys like Nylander, Tavares, Marner, and Matthews going up against Panarin, Zibanejad, Adam Fox, Strome, and Kreider. It's going to draw a lot of people to want to watch the game, and I think you're going to get a very good back and forth, good pace game because both of these teams play with good pace that has a lot of offensive potential chances in it that both goaltenders you're going to be able to see stand out too. And I think it'll be a very fun game to watch. In this game, it's hard to pick who you think is going to win it, though.
It's a little bit difficult, but I mean, I think Toronto is just really flying right now. I think they've reached a little bit of chemistry now. They've gone far enough into the season that they are feeling better about who's playing with who and how they're playing with each other and all that. I think they're very similar teams too. But Toronto probably has the better offense. I'm pulling up the Rangers here right now. Alexander Kerfoot is playing some of the best hockey I've seen him play in his career right now at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And they need that huge because they are thin. They're very thin. Andre Kasha, who has gone through a lot of injury problems. looks like maybe he's finally overcome it, and that's huge for them as well. It looks like they're putting Michael Bunting down on the fourth line now. They were experimenting him on the top six, but it looks like they're going to put him on the top line. Jack Campbell has been 168 and a .943.
Yeah, that's very good. That's absolutely yeah.
This is going to be a goaltending battle from hell, eh?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Rangers, their goals are 20th in the league. Their goals allowed is 14, so that's better on the goals allowed side than obviously the goals side. And then if we look at the Leafs, their goals allowed is all the way up at fifth with 2.47, and then 2.71 goals is tied for 23rd, but obviously that number's been a lot better in their last run stretch here that they've really been getting going. So I think those stats are a little bit skewed when you have these hot runs that teams are on. I would definitely lean towards the Maple Leafs, but when you have a goaltender like Shesterkin who hasn't really looked back since he's shown up, where you have guys like Sorokin who plays like a bat out of hell on the Islanders, but did have that honeymoon period and then fell off and then had to rebound to the league adjusting to him. Shesterkin's kind of just been cruising ever since he's got over here and has continued to have great success. So that's the big reason why I think it's hard to peg. You have a great team on both ends. You have the more big name talents, obviously, on Toronto, but Shesterkin can steal any game. So
yeah, I think I'd take the home team though. I just go with the home team on something like this. They get the greater advantage.
That's why I would favor them a little bit. Yeah, but
especially for the type of game that both of these guys play, both of these teams play. I think the home ice advantage helps out a lot, where you got the better positioning as far as where the boxes are. Like you got it gives you the skating team a little more of an advantage. So and although the Rangers have been pulling a lot of it out, it has been a lot of Shesterkin a lot of the time. Like they've been outplayed and won because of Shesterkin. They could do that today, but I'm gonna lean Toronto. I think Toronto might have it here. What do you guys got in the chat there?
Toronto does have a few more. The only injury for the Rangers is Sammy Blige, who's another really solid player. But he's the only guy. When you got Kasha, who aforementioned, Robertson, and then Mikheyev, and then obviously Mrazek is out for Toronto. So you have those injuries there to some of their depth guys that add to the full blown part of that lineup rather than just the top six key guys. So we'll see if that affects them at all against a Rangers team that tends to play a pretty good at your face game when it comes to their bottom six. But I would lean Toronto because of the home ice advantage, like you were saying.
Yeah, I like Toronto. I'm pretty impressed with the way they've been playing as of late. I think Toronto's one of those teams is once they get it going, it usually stays for a while, you know. And the last game,
that's a good point.
The last game they played, they got it going all right. It was against Nashville. It was pretty impressive. Nashville's a pretty damn good, hard-working team, and they were all over them. They were skating them all over the ice. So a little more difficult to do that with the Rangers that have some young, fast legs there, but I still think they pull it through. Okay, next game. Where the heck did I put it here? We got
Pitt and Montreal, right? Or is that not it?
Yeah, Pittsburgh and the Canadiens.
Oh, okay.
Penguins and the Canadiens. Young Caden Primo, as you said, is going to be playing for the Canadiens. And as we mentioned, Cole Caulfield will be back in the lineup, which I'm sure will give them a bit of a boost. Penguins completely outplayed the Buffalo Sabres their last game after having some uncharacteristic games before that. I think this could be a really tough game. I think the energy getting Caulfield back there, and the Canadiens have been kind of playing better, but I mean, probably Jari. Have they said who's going to be in? Is it going to be Jari?
It's Jari. Jari and Primo both confirmed according to RotoWire.
Jari has not played. He's been very inconsistent this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's been solid. I mean, he's been all right. I mean, I think the thing with Tristan Jari is he's usually in my B plus category of goaltenders. So I would say he's played as expected. He's been what you would expect him to be, like a 2.52, 9.17. That's pretty much what I would expect if I put a guy in that category. If I had him ranked in the A minus to A level, then yeah, I would expect a little bit more out of him. But he's kind of playing to be expected there. So I mean, if he can do that, then he's going to give them a chance to win against the Canadians, because it's all going to matter to if we see the Canadians team that's been more competitive in their recent games, or if we see the Canadians team that was an absolute dumpster fire to watch on the ice to start this season for reasons understandable, but still, you're not going to win if you're hanging out a kid to dry, let alone Jake Allen. So that's something that's going to be interesting to see. They will have that energy factor, like you said, Caulfield coming in, and I think that's something that people don't account enough of at times, and that's why I lean a little bit towards the upset here. Plus, Caden Primo, not the best goals against from his first game, but he did have a good save percentage in his one game of a 9.12. So I feel like he will keep them in the game, and he's going to be able to kind of take advantage of this opportunity to get his cup of coffee in the league, to be able to get this ample experience that's always great to have, good or bad, to be able to learn and grow from as a goaltender, as you're a young goaltender growing in this league as well. Now, they do have key injuries like Paquette, Perot, obviously. Everyone knows Weber's out, Hoffman's out, Edmondson, Byron, but they seem to be a little bit more playing, just kind of saying the kind of like we said to a lesser degree, a much lesser degree, but figuring it out mentality, just like the Capitals are playing at of late. They're just not as talented of a team, obviously, so they're not going to get the same result. But if you can play with that mentality, you're going to look better on the ice and be in a lot more games. And that's what the Canadians want to be able to do. You don't want to be the Montreal market and be at a 4-12 pace in your spans there. Like you can't consistently do that in the 16 game spans. Otherwise, you're going to get thrown out of Montreal pretty quickly by the fan base. This current year's team's going to get booed off of the ice. So if you start playing better like they're doing, that's all you want to see, and then they will start getting more wins because of it.
Yeah, it's just the same as like we were talking about Vancouver. It's all about being hard on the puck. They did. Drouin is back is in the lineup today. Dvorak. I'm just bringing up Pittsburgh
Mm-hmm.
here. I don't think they have Edmondson back though. The defense is a little bit suspect.
No, Edmondson's supposed to still be out. It's and then Josh Brook, who they tried to have replace, is also injured. So you have injuries to the depth even when it comes to the defense. So that's never good to have this early in the season.
Right. And Demolin's back for Pittsburgh, and that's kind of a game changer
Mm-hmm.
to me. He's a glue guy for them, with Letang, Peterson, Marino. I mean, it never looks like sounds very good on defense, but they just seem to get away with it. And of course, Sidney Crosby, 1 assist in his first 3 games. That's just not Sidney Crosby like he's one of those. He's 34 now. Is it starting to wear on him a little bit? Because remember Sidney Crosby. Remember when he had those concussion problems and he was, I don't know, out for 25 games, and he came back and he was like on a goal scoring pace like right away. This isn't that same Sidney Crosby appears right now.
No, but this also isn't the same Pittsburgh Penguins team either,
Sure.
as those times that Crosby came back from those injuries. So I think it's a combination of both. You saw his frustration, unfortunately for Martin Fioravari, um, get taken out on him the other night. So I think it's kind of in his head a little bit right now. That play kind of obviously highlighted that. And once he just gets back to playing like everybody knows Cindy Crosby can play at a 200-foot level, he'll be fine. And Pittsburgh, again, they're not starting off as good as they hoped at the 5-6 clip, but if they get going more in their next 10 to 15, what have you, they're a team until I see them suck at a full season and miss it. I'm still not going to count out with Crosby. Eventually, you probably have Evgeny come back, so that adds to the fold. And you still have Letang. Dumoulin is one of the underrated defensemen of the league. That's just a rock on the defense that a lot of people, because he doesn't do anything that overly sexy, don't always give the props he deserves. But yeah, he definitely deserves the props for just being one of those like rocks on a defense that help hold the entire defense together. So I think they'll get some success going. It's just all about Crosby being able to play like Crosby, which I think it's a little bit in his head, and that Fioravari play kind of highlighted that a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Okay. You know what? We're not gonna go down the list here because we got some people bringing up some games here in the chat, and that's more important. Our peeps that take care of our peeps, right? Yeah. Exactly. So a lot of people liking this are on this Edmonton Oilers Jets game, and it's going to be one of the barn burners, I think, that we all want to watch.
Of the
Uh,
nightcap, yeah.
yeah, so we might as well get into that. Uh, the Oilers are putting in freaking Skinner.
Stuart
Is
Skinner.
there something wrong with?
Although I didn't watch the games he's been in, but his stats 267 913. Did you guys play well? You must have played well in front of him.
Uh, well, the Buffalo game, he didn't hold him in very well. He didn't allow a lot of goals in, but there wasn't. Edmonton kind of outshot Buffalo. He let a couple softies in. He didn't look good. He didn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
And you're playing against a Jets team now. I wanted to look up. There was for some reason Ehlers was questionable for that game. And
Stastny's out.
Stastny
Ehlers,
has
it
been out
says
for.
right now, should be in according to RotoWire.
Oh, good.
It doesn't have him listed. And then for the your Oilers, you have Holloway, Ryan, Archibald, obviously Cliffbaum, Shore,
Holloway's
Mike
in
Smith,
tonight.
and then Alex Stalock. No, those are all the injured
Oh
people.
yeah, 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 yeah. I was gonna say.
Yeah. So, yeah, you don't have to. Obviously, Stalock, if he was healthy, there's right now being a guy that's been a good AHL goaltender and a flex guy between the AHL NHL would be in over Stuart Skinner, you would think, because he's also a guy that sticks around because he's a guy that takes pressure off the defense, and when you watch him at the AHL level, and even when he's been up with the Wild in the past, plays the puck. So that helps with Stuart Skinner. Obviously, does not do that, and then when he does, you don't want it to happen. So, but the thing with goaltending is Craig Eagles always said it. The guy that your Reefs had on his show before. Those are you have to be patient with certain players, and he hasn't found it yet. But he's still young, and how many goalies have we seen find it at age 28?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean, the fact that he actually is putting up better numbers this year, even with a losing record, and the team seems to be playing a little bit better in front of him, that's at least a start to being able to start building something. So
I totally get
maybe
that.
this will be a nice blessing in disguise that for him, he can kind of get through the wounds, kind of, and learn from them, hopefully, to be able to establish himself as a very good third guy option and then kind of grow from that.
Just say cap. Okay, we'll get to that when we get. Yeah. The fact of the matter is they're not there yet, and this is a Winnipeg team that has no shortage of shooters. Kyle Connor is just absolute beast this year, and for me, if Nurse and Barry are going to be paired on the top line again, I'm on Winnipeg. The Oilers are going to have to
Yeah,
outscore them to win because if Nurse and Barry are together, that's just like two Keystone Cops, man. They have nothing in the defensive zone.
I feel like I feel like Nurse because Nurse is more of an offensive guy, obviously. A guy that could pair well with him. Not that you necessarily want to put him on the first line, but let's be honest, the Flyers don't want Justin Braun consistently on the. He's playing great this year, but ideally, if everybody was healthy, it's not like he's a guy you want playing your first line. The fact that Bouchard's a bigger guy that just blocks shots and does that and plays a defensive game compared to the other guy being an offensive guy, the line structure, even though he's not ready to play those minutes, makes more sense. Where the line structure of Tyson Barrie and Darnell Nurse makes zero sense because both are play drivers. And having two play driving defensemen on the same line makes zero sense in the current. It didn't really make sense in most NHL time,
Maybe the
but
80s.
especially in the current time, yeah, maybe in the '80s, yeah. But currently, that doesn't really make much sense to do. So
No, and they're play drivers that, and neither one of them are a very, especially Barry. Barry's an absolute disaster defensively. So
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah. I mean, just a terrible combination.
Barry's supposed to do what you need him to do, which is be a good second power play guy that he showed last year, which is why he got re-signed. And now this year, Tibbet. That's where I agree with Peyton on Tibbet hurting him, saying getting on him critically there. Sometimes I think Peyton gets a little bit overcritical, in my opinion, of Tibbet, but I do
Yeah,
with Arc
yeah.
too, so that's
He's a pretty
understandable.
emotional guy.
But when it comes to Dave Tibbet, you need to put those guys in the spots to succeed, and you're not putting them in spots to succeed, and then you're also overplaying guys like the Kyle Torreses and Skeevers of the world, where you could just put in. Yes, he's young, but I would rather just let a 23-year-old like Benson be getting consistent playing time to get through the woes and wounds he has to potentially get through to become a good consistent bottom
Yeah,
sixer because he's not in his prime yet. None of these other veterans are doing anything. So you might as well let the kid play, to use the baseball term that people have always been saying with baseball, let the kids play and then let him get through the adversity of going through issues and then kind of come out on the front end and maybe be a very consistent bottom sixer for a good amount of years for Edmonton. Because even if the veterans did start getting going eventually from keeping them in, they're not going to be on the team for the foreseeable future. He's only 23. So you some of the lineup stuff there doesn't necessarily make sense, but part of it's also on Ken, not part of it. A good bit is also on Ken Holland. We're continuing to get people that are in the twilights of their careers when it comes to trying to add depth to the team rather than just good, proven, current depth commodities. So
yeah. No, tourist skates should never touch the ice. Like never. He's an absolute disaster out there. I know Tippett's style of coaching is actually very effective. It's frustrating to watch though. He likes to build belief in the people that he has. That's you can't go anywhere without belief. So he gives them a challenge, and you can test that challenge. So everybody in the room, you got to remember, hockey players don't think analytically. They they don't.
no,
They only think it's much more emotional than people give them credit for. They really don't pay attention too much about X and O's and stuff like that. I mean, they really do need to be led a lot about what they do. And if you let a guy who's like Tourist, who's had a long career, not get full opportunity to take a spot, it causes morale problems in the room. Like it's like, why isn't Turi getting it? No. He's been in the league a long time. Like people don't understand, right? But this has got to the point now where Turris has just dropped the ball too much. You got to stop it. Stop it. He's
I mean,
terrible.
Torres is kind of at the point of his career where past injuries have caught up to him. Just like we've seen with players like Andrew Ladd, who now is, of course, back in the league with Arizona, but was in the AHL for a couple years because you had to work your way back, and he just has that love and desire for. I'm not sure if Kyle. I'm assuming he might, but Ladd did to keep playing, and then eventually worked his way back up. He's kind of at that point of his career right now where it's, do you want to keep going and potentially have that be where you have to go down and work your way back up, or is maybe this going to be the year that Kyle Torres says, I had a pretty good run, maybe I'm going to retire? But we'll have to see as time goes on for him. But he definitely seems like he's at the end of being that consistent bottom six guy, unless if maybe he can go down because he's not going to get claimed. And then find some success down there to be able to come back up and have more confidence.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I just like Winnipeg. I just like Winnipeg first, and they're playing Hollebuck. I mean, you can say whatever you want. Skinner could be good, but
It is expected, yeah. Is that confirmed on yours? Because RotoWire has him as
oh,
expected.
you know what? They're on a back to back. So why would you play Hollebuck against Vancouver though? Really, play Hollebuck here.
That's a
It'd
good
be
point. Yeah.
silly to play Hellebuck here when you got Skinner and or say to play Hellebuck against Vancouver when you could probably win with not Brossois. It's with Comrie against Vancouver, right? So you might as well throw Comrie in against Vancouver, a very demoralized, not playing poorly Vancouver team, rather than play against. I don't know why they're playing Skinner tonight. The Oilers are not on a back to back. Like I don't get it. Maybe there's something with Koskinen that we don't know or something like that. I'll give him a benefit of the doubt, but it's a weird place to play. Molten Bowl could be Vancouver. Okay, the other one they were talking about, we'll get to now. We got, half an hour still? Good, we got lots of time. Lots of time. Dallas Stars and the Wild. And the Wild have just not been the Wild recently. And Dallas looks like they're starting to come together a little bit. This is a real tough one for me. What do you like about what do you think about these two teams at the moment?
Well, I feel like the Wild it goes back to the point I made earlier where goaltending can be kind of up and down at times where one year you're riding on a very good high like Talbot was doing this year, and then early on he's been a little bit leaky at times this season, where if you look at his overall statistical numbers, I think he's still above a 902 save, but for Talbot, that's not where you want to be. You want to be much better than that, and I think it comes with the territory of if your goaltender that you committed to, rightfully so, from what he did for you, is not having as consistent of a start, that's going to obviously show up elsewhere, and that's what it's doing for Minnesota in these last couple games where he's been more inconsistent. So I think their team's going to be fine though, because you have two solid net minders there. You still have a 10-5 record. It's not like you're in a bad spot, even with the inconsistencies of how Talbot's played. You just got to kind of go back to what you were doing in these first handful of games, and Cam Talbot has to have that game where he just kind of locks it back in and gets going to being the Cam Talbot that they grew to love in Minnesota once he went over there, and then they'll be able to rebound and get back to going to the pace that they want to be at and stay at being in second rather than being 6-4 in the last 10, being more of just a solid game, because you have Kokkinen, you have Talbot, and Kokkinen has been struggling in his 3 tilts this year, and I don't foresee that continue to happen. As a solid young goaltender, he's still young. He's only 25 years old, in the middle of his prime as a former 4th rounder. So I think the goaltending needs to settle their ways a little bit, and then the whole Wild team will get back to being how they were to start the season, rather than just a solid 6-4 team that they've been in the last 10.
Yeah, I mean, what we're not talking to here is Hudobin hasn't been lighting it up this year either.
No. Hudobin has been really off this year, which is sad to see because he's one of the most fun guys in the entire NHL. If nobody's ever seen an interview with him, you have to look it up after this show. He's one of the most fun dudes in the entire league, but a 304 and 897, that's not cutting it anywhere.
No, and especially with a team like Dallas that maybe early on had been stressing too much defense, and they're just trying to figure out how to bring their offense back. Okay, what do you think about this? Suter's back in Minnesota too, right? Who do you think is the advantage there? What would you say about that? This is Suter coming back to Minnesota.
That's a good point. I feel like he would have the advantage of knowing the quirks of his as a defender. Just thinking from that perspective of knowing the quirks of the practice, I would say you probably go to him. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to give his overall team a good enough advantage, depending how Anton Hudobin, who's been struggling, plays for Dallas, and Minnesota, of course, is the home club. That I would still be leaning Minnesota in this game and see Talbot have more of a bounce back game. Dallas, as we said, is not the most consistent offensive output team, of course, and then kind of, get moving in the right direction to get back to being more of an 8-2 or a 7-3 in the next 10, rather than just a 6-4 team if you're the Minnesota Wild. And I think this is a night that they can potentially start that, because Braden Holtby actually started off good in his 8 games. Unfortunately, got banged up. Ottinger played a solid, good game so far this season. Honestly, I would have put him in against the Wild over Hudobin with how he's been playing, but they went with Hudobin, and I don't think that's going to get Dallas the W.
Yeah, Hudobin makes it difficult, but Dallas in their last what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games have scored 3 or more. No, sorry, Nashville was 2, but their last 2, they beat Philadelphia 5-2. Was that in Philadelphia? Was that on the road? Remember?
The Philly game, I was covering a game that night. I'm trying to remember where we played Dallas because I didn't even watch that game. I was covering a game. Um, that was in Dallas. That's right. Yeah, that was in. That wasn't here. That was down in Dallas,
That was in
where the
Dallas.
Flyers haven't beat Dallas since like I think it's like now 5, 6, 7. Like it's since years ago.
Really?
Like Dallas is one of those teams that's just had our number.
Before this little sputter, Minnesota had scored went 1, 2, 3, 4 games in a row scoring 5 goals. Then they lost to Vegas and only scored 2. They won against Seattle, scored 4, and then couldn't score at all against San Jose, against a guy who I criticized a lot early by myself. And Reimer has been playing absolutely brilliant for the San Jose Sharks.
Oh yeah, he's been really good for the Sharks. That's entirely true. He's one of those guys. Um, Speaking of Peyton, how we both love playing the video game, he's one of those oddball guys that NHL, even though he's only like an 82, 83 overall, for some reason is always just amazing in the video games at reading plays and just makes like every single save that you're like, oh, if I can't get any other goalie, I'm just going to get James Reimer on my team. But that's almost what the Sharks said this offseason, and it's working out for them as well in bunches. Where if you looked at his numbers last year, though, obviously it was a choppy year, but he actually did have a pretty solid season to get expected to get thrown more of a confidence boost by the Sharks to start this season. It's just last year with obviously COVID going on and everything was bunched up. People didn't necessarily remember everything of last year, rightfully so. So
Yeah, I think in San Jose, Minnesota's bottom pair, which is their biggest, to me anyways, their bottom pair defensemen of Kulikov and Merrill, is getting exposed a little bit out there. Um, I'm gonna lean Mini here. I'm gonna lean Mini. Talbot, Talbot has been fairly leaky, and Hudobin has too. And if it comes down to an outscoring match, I'm gonna go with Mini right now. But I'm really, really mean that's like dicey. I think this is almost a coin flip game to me.
yeah, I mean, I just feel like Talbot, even though being leaky, Talbot's been leaky in a sense of inconsistency, where he's still been. You've seen the Cam Talbot that you've seen at times during the course of his career, particularly last season where he was really good. Um, and you haven't seen that at all with Hudobin, where this year Hudobin's just been unfortunately really bad and hasn't looked good. Where Talbot, he's been leaky and not as good as you would expect Cam Talbot to be, and has been bad at times. Hudobin's been bad overall.
Yeah, so he's
That's
just been
that's
bad.
the
Yeah, he's just
yeah.
been bad. That's why I kind of go with the Wild here after talking it out. We have a member in the audience that is a huge Hurricanes fan, so I think we'll turn to what also could be maybe the barn burner game. The Hurricanes and the Ducks. I also want to talk to you about this Ducks team. Wow, they are playing this Trevor Zegras kid. Let me tell you, I was saying it yesterday. I predict this kid is going to be one of the greatest leaders of the game has seen. I just freaking love the attitude of that kid. And then you got a Hurricanes team. Like, I guess the Islanders, but even almost to a different level. The Hurricanes play with a mechanical type consistency that I haven't seen too often in the NHL. Do you agree?
Yeah, and it's not really too unexpected just because what did Rob Brindamore play with in his entire career? Mechanical type consistency that you haven't really always seen match since. So he has his team playing just like he's been playing and talking about leaders. He's one or did play. I mean, talking about leaders. He's one of the best leaders as a coach. Leads by example too. He still sometimes outlifts half of his damn roster. So
Yeah.
so that's good. That's going to motivate you to say, well, I'm not having this dude freaking show me up again. So they definitely have a very good team, very good leadership group out there in Carolina. And same goes for the Ducks this year, like you said, bringing in Zegras and then on top of Trevor Zegras, Troy Terry, I mean, he's developing
Oh,
into a fantastic player. You drafted him all the way down at 148, and he looks like he might be a potential star for you there with 21 points in 16 games, already 11 goals potted on the season. And then you have to obviously shout out still a guy that only has 3 points in the 8 games, but I have liked the way he's looked, and he's only 18 years old. I also have liked how Mason McTavish has looked in those 8 games. And I didn't expect him to come up and light the points field on fire because he's only 18. So I think they have great future footing, the Ducks. Everybody knew that. But they have a better than we expected current footing in the league this year because their young guys really are stepping it up to the next level, and some so. Zegras, you knew what you were getting. Terry, I don't think people expected this quick of a leap this quickly. McTavish already looks like if you want to, you can just let him develop in the NHL. I don't know if they're going to do that. They might send him back down, but you can do that. And then Ludestrom actually looks like he's a very good third
I
line
love
center.
Ludestrom.
So,
I talk about him here all
yeah,
the time. I really love that guy.
so I think you have the footing of a team, and then you have the veterans like Grant, who's been there multiple times, a good bottom sixer. Silverberg, who's obviously a good, solid guy. And then on defense, you got Cam Fowler, who's been a leader on the team for years. So you have the guys that really bring it, and then you have guys playing their best hockey in years defensively. That's then led to helping the offense to become the offense it's become. When you have a great defensive and goaltending game, obviously it's easier to push the ante. And the Ducks have been doing that with Eakins all season. So it's something that I think this team is ahead of the schedule, but they might honestly end up being a team that's a surprise team in hockey, just like not the New York Giants, the San Francisco Giants, were a surprise team in baseball for different reasons. They had more veterans that carried their team mixed in with young guys. This team would be because their young guys just propelled to the next level a little bit quicker than I think some projected, including myself.
Oh, I think I've been a supporter of Dallas Eakins while everybody's been saying he should get his head chopped off. I really like Dallas. I liked him in Edmonton. I thought it was foolish of them to get rid of him at that time. But people are going. People are saying this will be a high flying game. I'm not so sure about that. If I'm Brindamore and I'm coming into this Anaheim team right now, I don't think I want to run and gun with this team. Like I want if I can to turn this into a defensive battle. Uh,
Agreed. Yeah,
yeah,
that would be an easier way to win. They have very good. If you run and gun with them, Zegras can fly past you. Troy Terry doesn't always seem like with the way he plays the game, the quickest skater, and then he'll just blow past you. And you're like, oh damn. So like they have guys that are going to not really help you out if you play that category. Plus, I think if you do that, you're setting yourself up for the most frustration too, because you have two of the game's best goaltenders playing. As long as Jonathan Gibson, who's expected to go for the Ducks,
yeah,
goes for the Ducks, that if you just keep having this become a goaltender battle, that's when players obviously get more frustrated on both sides, and then it's just whoever the heck gets one goal wins. I feel like this game has more of a chance if you play in that style to be like that. Where if you play more like both of these teams can play at that more grinded out defensive structure, that we've seen both of them play out already this season. That'll produce better results for each team, and then it would still potentially be a low scoring game, but one that isn't a frustrated, heavy game that it's like, oh, Eureka, we finally got one goal because it's like 35-35 in shots, and both goalies are playing amazing.
yeah. I think I got to pick a side here. So I think that Carolina picks away at this team, and this is a good learning experience for a Ducks team that's riding really high right now. I just think Carolina can beat you more ways than Anaheim can beat you. And the way that Anaheim beats people is a lot of skating, good solid passes out of the defensive zone, some very long ones. And when I watch Carolina, I don't see too many teams getting away with them. So I'm going to lean Carolina here, but I think this is going to be an awesome game to watch. And I can't wait till it's on. We got to move on to a couple more. We got a few more games here, so we'll go back down the. We got.
I would say for me though, I would go with Anaheim just because they're home and there's something with that young energy when you
Yeah,
have that. But if we talked about energy earlier, when you just have that energy and spunk going for you, even with a key veteran like Raquel who is not playing currently, I still think they're a team, or Comtros, who's a good youngster. They're a team that are still going to be able to play well, especially if Gibson's in that. It'll be a battle to the end type of game, and it should be a more battle defensive game, like we talked about it. Both teams are smart.
right. Okay. Next game we'll get to is the Panthers and Devils, and I don't want to say a word. Like Barkov is out. Oh, that was so ugly. Oh my gosh, that he looks like he's going to be out for a while. Did you see that injury?
Um, I did not get a chance to see it. No.
Oh, it's bad. His knee did things that a knee is not supposed to do. And that is just too bad. And they're putting the kid in. So Spencer Knight has kind of struggled the last two games. Almost look like Carter Hardish a little bit from last year. I'm holding out to see if Blackwood is in. I may decide to go with
Adam as
Jersey
expected.
here. Blackwood has been unbelievable when he has been in net for New Jersey this year. I think if he's in, it's going to be close, at least close, I think.
Yeah, well, that's kind of been Blackwood. He of course wasn't in the whole time last season, but whenever he has been in, Jersey's played much better on the record total because Blackwood's just played a game that's kept them in every game, and he's one of the goaltenders that probably honestly one because of being out for a period of time a bit and then coming back and having success again this season, but two, the Devils haven't been the most flashy team of recent years, is in that underrated category right now and isn't talked about enough for what he's able to do when actually healthy and on the ice for the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, yeah, I know. That being said, this Florida team's hard to go against. Even without Barkov, they got a pretty stacked lineup, and they're playing with. They didn't skip a beat with the whole Q thing, did they?
No, they seem to kind of just push through that, which is something that shows the makings of a team with great character on their team and ability to kind of just say like obviously what he did was not good and you have to be punished for, but they moved past it and said that's nothing that from us. That's something that he made a mistake 10 years ago. We now have a very good coach here
Yeah,
that's committed to us, that is taking his opportunity in Andrew Brunette to be able to implement his system now slowly but surely. And it seems like he's changing a little bit of things, but kind of just riding what they were doing, and it's working well. And his voice is being heard, and they're responding to it well, obviously, since they've been having good play, and that's all you want. I mean, that's all you want after a terrible situation like that, to see your team be able to kind of keep it going, and not be able to kind of flounder because of it.
yeah. You know what? Now that we talk about it, and I think about that Barkov injury, I think Florida probably takes this game because they're going to be playing for Barkey, right? Like that, they're going to be playing for Bark.
I
They
think
don't
the
want to
key
lose this game after an injury like that against. You know what I mean? Like there's a deep need to win for a guy who's struggling with having had an injury like that. You don't need to make him feel even worse. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree with that. I feel like I would lean Florida too because they're the much better team overall. Maybe Blackwood could steal a game. I think the key to this game, you hit on the head earlier when we first started talking about it, was Spencer Knight, and he's looking more like Hart when he had to adjust. Well, this guy is uber talented. I still think he's going to be a very good
Oh,
goaltender. He's just
yeah.
also
No
very young. So he's going through his adjustment period now, and then the league adjusted to him. Now he's going to get to adjust back. Carter Hart's playing like a bat out of hell this year, obviously. I think Spencer Knight's going to get it going again, but if he's played like he's played this season thus far in this tilt, then that might be problematic, and Mackenzie Blackwood might be able to take one for the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why. I don't think Florida's on a back-to-back here, are they? Just let me look it up. But as I'm talking, if they're not, Florida, no, they're not. See, I think exactly why Spencer Knight is in here, because when he had those 2 games where he struggled, Bobrovsky was not available, so it was all him, right? And I think they're taking Spencer Knight here basically to say we still believe in you. It's okay. Whatever.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
I
Yeah,
think
that's a
this
good
is
point.
we believe in you type thing here, and I think Spencer. I'm taking Florida. I think Spencer Knight's going to rock it here. This is a point where it's like he's going to feel really good about this, and they're putting him in at a time when the team is really going to be playing hard for Barkey. So it's a safe spot to put the kid in where a team is not going to get outworked. Florida is not going to get outworked tonight. There's no way. They're going to be up for that game. For sure.
Oh no, I don't think they'll get outworked. I think it just depends on the.
Oh, I didn't think you would, but I'm
like,
just saying, like,
yeah, the night
adamantly,
effect.
there's no way with Barkov being there that they're getting outworked tonight, right? That whole situation, yeah. Right? Like, yeah, I know you knew they weren't going to get outworked. I'm pretty sure.
No, I just think it all depends. Knight, if he lets in a couple squeaky
It
goals,
could be a problem.
and then Mackenzie Blackwood having a great game, that could be the difference of a 2-1 win
Are the
for the
Predators
Devils.
playing tonight? No, that's postponed. Yeah, that's right. Okay,
No,
let's
that's the
get to the next game because we got 10 minutes to get to these games. So, Sharks, Blue. Oh no, Lightning, Flyers. You got to talk about your Flyers there. This is going to be an interesting game, and could you get any better goaltending matchup right now? This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. You get to see Andre Vasilevsky, who's been doing it obviously for years now, against Carter Hart, who's still only 27 years old somehow, but against Carter Hart, who has obviously been doing it for a short period of time, had his blunder year last year, and now is rebounding with a fantastic year this year. The big thing for the Flyers, obviously, in this game is you have to be able to play in order to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, you're going to have to play a little bit better on the offensive end not a little bit better. You're going to have to play better on the offensive end of the puck and get your goal totals back up again like they were early in the season, because yes, you might be able to win a game like we mentioned earlier where you try to just be defensive and kind of battle to the end and then hope you're the team that gets the fortunate dirty goals. But Tampa is a team that obviously pushes the level offensively, rightfully so, because of the guys they have on the roster. Point, Stamkos, Cirelli, Palat, even Colton and Barry Boulet, all solid players that can push guys, all guys that are usually on their power play. So you're going to have to potentially probably score 3-4 goals in tonight's game. This isn't a game that you're going to probably be able to get those 2 goals, unless if Carter Hart, again, is just playing like he did against Carolina and is the main reason you were not down 18-0 at a certain point in the game, and then we're somehow able to win. So I mean, I think you're gonna have to play a great full facets game in this one, where the Flyers are at a very good spot at 8-4 to the 8-3 Lightning, but compared to the Lightning, the Flyers got there through winning because of their goaltender, and not even just Hart, but also Jones playing well early in the season. Their goaltending being some of the best in the league statistically. And you have to eventually be able to pick up on the goal scoring output to help out your netminders and also help out your defense, like the Justin Brauns of the world and Risto, who's having the best start to a season of his career. Your defensemen that are actually playing fairly well in front of them they can't do everything. You need to get the goal scoring output going.
Yeah. Yeah, Yeah, Philly's been playing really strong defensively. Carter Hart's playing really well. Lightning do have their mojo going right now a little bit, though. They're looking more like a Lightning team that's taking the regular season a little more serious this year. And this is a tough one. It's really tough. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I just have too much. It's going to. I think I don't. Philadelphia again doesn't want to run and gun with Tampa Bay. They'll lose for sure.
No,
Yeah.
but I do feel like you might still have to score three in this game to be able to potentially win. Because if you just have the offense of Tampa, they're a team combined with their offense. They have the Coltons, the Maroons of the world, the Cologne of the world, who also are very good at getting those dirty goals. So if you get a couple of those that go that are nothing on Carter Hart, they're just deflection goals or a goal that goes over someone's skate or what have you, you're going to have to rebound from that against a very good Tampa team that obviously when they get the lead, they're pretty good at keeping it. So I think that's why you're going to need to see a little bit more of a push. I really like the way, like you said, our defense has been playing, the way Risto's been playing, the way offensively Keith Yandel's been playing, and also Sealers stepped up being a shot blocking guy and played at his best he's ever played at the NHL level, being more of a very good AHL his entire career. So it's not ideal to have him playing the games total he's playing, but he's stepped up, and that's good to see. You have to step up now for those guys and get the offense going more for them because they've been holding down the fort, the goaltending, and the defense. It's now your job to be able to help get the power play going, one, and then two, be able to get the 5-on-5 scoring going, too. So,
yeah. I'm going to lean Tampa here, but I'm really not 100%. I really like the way Philadelphia has been grinding out games.
I feel like Philly, I leaned them because of the emotional ride the Flyers are also coming off of, like you were saying. I feel like when you win a game and you win a game for somebody like they won that game for Hazy after he got the goal, when you get a game like that, you did have 43 shots, you played a good game. I feel like you're kind of riding not just the play momentum into the game, but you're riding the emotional momentum of we're still playing for that consolidation group. We're playing for Jimmy, we're playing for Kevin. We want to keep having him get on a hot streak and get back going here. That I feel like this team has the most togetherness they ever had. I would definitely say that in years that will help be able to carry them past in a battle that is probably going to be like a 3-2 or a 2-1 type
I think
game.
it's going to be a 2-1, something like that too. Okay, Hockey News Reports is in the house. Yeah, Joe's. I don't know why. Whatever, we connected him and we could see him, and then the stream wouldn't work. So instead of playing around with it, we just went audio. Better to have audio and no Joe than visual and or something like that. You know what I'm trying to say. We got more games to
Yeah.
get to, so let's get to it.
I think we just have San Jose and St. Louis, don't we?
We haven't talked about the Wings, Golden Knights, Blue Jackets, Coyotes, and Sharks, Blues. Sharks, Blues. Real quick, Sharks had a big win against the Wild last game. Blues had an absolutely horrible performance against Arizona last game. Now they're putting in their backup, who has been playing not too bad the last couple. And I believe the Sharks are going with Reinhardt again, or Reimer. I would ride that hot hand. He's been playing like crazy, playing really well. Sharks got a whole bunch of players back, are playing with a really good energy. Blues, on the other hand, questionable character in that room, I think. I have a feeling there's some questionable character issues going on there. What do you think?
I mean, I feel like their team, they have been a very up and down team early. They're a team that, as we sit on the run to the cup, obviously, they still kind of do combine that old school jam style play with having skill on their team. And that, as we use this for a different team earlier, is sometimes going to look ugly because you don't have the newest style of play. You're kind of combining what worked back in the earlier 2000s and especially in the late 90s with now. And that's why sometimes you get those dirtier wins and you don't have the most consistent looking play. Where if you're a Sharks team, you have more guys like the LeBancs of the world that just fly up and down the ice that fit into that category, or Logan Couture. Where their team also, though, both of these teams are inconsistent. It's just the Sharks have a team that is not projected to be actually solid coming into a season, where when you look at the Blues, you projected them to be a probably roster wise in the way that they have the winning pedigree, a pretty solid team, where you're projecting the Sharks to be maybe a surprise riser team, but probably not much more than that. So for them to be at 8-6 compared to the Blues at 8-5, that's a lot more impressive for the Sharks, and the way that they're playing and the way that James Reimer's playing, like you highlighted earlier. That's why I would have to lean towards the Sharks, because Reimer has a 171 and a 943. So even if they were pushing a little bit in this game, I think he'll be able to subdue their offense, and James Reimer will be able to get them the win anyway. So I feel like I would have to lean the Sharks, just because the Blues have been, like you said, hard to watch.
So Blues are a really weird team. They have guys that are riding like really high, like Jordan Kyrou is playing freaking phenomenal right now. Ryan O'Reilly's kind of struggled since he's come back a little bit, but not too bad. Buchnevich is one of the most inconsistent players I have ever seen in my life. Sometimes he looks like he's going to be a 40-goal scorer. Sometimes you don't see him ever. That's the reason why they didn't want to pay the big money for him in New York. Robert Thomas has played probably one of probably his best season in the NHL, and Tarasenko has been playing well as well. But
Yeah.
Scott Perunovich, that kid looks pretty solid, man. He played against. He was one of the better players against Arizona that night. But I don't know. It's just so inconsistent, and Ville Husso really hasn't played all that much this year.
He only played it.
I'm going to take San Jose's energy right now. I don't know. Like, I don't know how St. Louis is going to react after being embarrassed in Arizona. I don't know if they're going to be down on themselves or actually turn it around and play like they're supposed to.
Yeah, well, Ville's only played one game this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So he's really coming in off of not having any reps at all.
Yeah.
Where Reimer's been one of basically the main cat that they've been going to. So
yeah. So, anyways, we both lean in San Jose here, right? Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Next game, because we got to do it quick now. Blue Jackets, Coyotes. Blue Jackets can't lose that game, right?
you would hope not. If you're a Blue Jackets fan, you're coming in having a very good season, playing a 2-13 team. Obviously, though, Karel Vojmelka still, I think, will be a solid goalie. The league adjusted to him. Now he has to adjust back. But Wedgwood, since getting claimed, has looked pretty solid. But even if that continues, I still see the Coyotes, with the way they play, just a very hard to watch defensive game. They're going to give up goals. They're going to be able to get the goal total that's been impressive early, and you're going to see the kids like Sillinger. You're going to see all these different guys on the Blue Jackets kind of just be able to take advantage of a downtrodden team there when it comes to, especially Voracek. Voracek's going to be able to pass all over. If anybody gets open for Jay tonight, he's going to be able to pass all over the Coyotes. So if you're Nyquist, if you're Hoffman, if you're Chikachov, if you're Roslovic, get the hell open, and you're going to score a goal tonight, because they don't stop much passing when it comes to the Arizona Coyotes.
And that was the thing. All St. Louis had to do is be creative you can be creative in the offensive zone with these guys. You don't have. They're sitting there from the point doing the old going to tap one in. Get the dirty goals. You don't need to do that with Arizona. You want to do the exact opposite.
Arizona's the team you can get cute with. Yeah, you can play a little bit cute with, because it's going to confuse them with the way they play their defense. Mm-hmm. Where that's why I'm not trying to obviously diss who's there now, but that's why I feel like it was a mistake for them, even in a rebuild, unless if he really didn't want to be there, to get rid of Rick Tocchet, because Tocchet just always has you playing at that compete drive of trying your best on defense, and at least even if you suck at defense, looking like you give a darn. Where this year they just look completely lost and just out of place as a rebuilding team, where at least in the past there was a little bit more
I don't know. I
competed.
think Turney's doing a pretty good job. There was a lot of players, but getting mixed new and all that kind of stuff like that. But Talkett's contract was up, right? He
It
didn't. He
was,
didn't.
yes,
Yeah,
but
that's it. It was all about money. Turney came in for nothing. Turney didn't expect to get that. Turney came in. It was all about money. Arizona has no money. They didn't want to pay Talkett what he needed, what he deserved to get paid. So that's all that was. I'm pretty sure. They have no money. They're broke, and they're getting. I mean, they're billionaires, but they're going to lose a lot of money doing this rebuild. So they couldn't afford. I personally think that's what that was all about. All right, get a couple more games. Are you got to fly right away, or can we do the Golden Knights real quick?
no, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Golden Knights and the Red Wings and Larkin out. That's gonna be tough.
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge loss. The Red Wings again, though, for what all things considered to be at 8-8 at this point of the season,
Yeah.
where we kind of had them coming into the season. Stevie Y made good moves to bring them more guys that fill out the roster, especially Pius Suter. I've always liked Pius Suter, and I still think they're absolutely dumb in Chicago to go, oh, we brought over a great guy from overseas. Let's just let him go somewhere else. But he's fitting in well down there, and they're a good team. But I think this is maybe the night we can start, no pun intended, seeing the Golden Knights get to the Golden Knights that we know they're going to be in the end of this season. At least I think most people still believe they're going to be. Now only sitting at 9-7, and this is maybe a night Rob Leonard, who has looked better after a slow start recently, can continue kind of building back to what we know he can play at as well.
Yeah. I think it's probably Vegas tonight, but I mean they're a pretty beat up team. They do get Stone back though, and that's going to help out quite a bit. Um, that Detroit team is a different team without Larkin in there. It's not the same. Suter, I'm maybe not as high on Suter as you are, but I don't mind him. But I certainly don't want him to be on my top line center. And I love, of course, Raymond and Bertuzzi's having a hell of a year, but overall, Vegas has got speed for days on that lineup, and Detroit's uh, biggest or best attribute is their speed, but it's probably not as good a speed as Vegas's. So I'm going to lean the Vegas' speed wins over here. And like you said, Lehner, I don't think he's been playing all that bad. I think he's
No. I'm saying he's been good overall. But if you looked at his numbers at the season start, the first couple weeks in, he was off at the start because the only reason I remember it is when my buddy and I, who game a lot, we talk about hockey all the time when we're gaming. We talked about how Robin Leonard hasn't looked like Robin Leonard early in the season, and then pretty much after we had that conversation, like has happened quite often on this show, when me and you talk about somebody struggling in the past, all of a sudden they turn into Jesus, and
yeah.
then they're playing really well. So that's pretty much how that went.
Oh, okay. Well, we got them all in, and usually we like to have more input from what people are picking out there. But you got Swerve is taking the Habs tonight. Stars going for the Blues. Yeah, Blues, Sharks tie. And
When it comes to Suter, though, I don't want him as my first line center either. I completely entirely agree with that.
yeah,
But I just like a guy that can play wing center.
yeah, that's
Very
always good.
competitive,
He's a good
200-foot.
utility guy. Yeah,
Yeah, he's a guy that also can produce. Like he already has 7 points this season at like probably like a 35, 40 point clip in your bottom six if you continuously put him there. And then if you rise him more, he could probably even get that 45, 50 in a particular, not consistently, but in a particular season if he has to play up in the lineup more. So I like having those guys that are great finishing pieces of the puzzle, players to have that can kind of become part of your next core, which is what I think Stevie Y has in mind for him. Eventually, he'll play more bottom six role once everybody comes to fruition prospect wise when it comes to Detroit a couple years down the road, if they still have him. But he's a good guy.
Larkin is showing in tonight. Are you seeing that? Oh, I thought he had COVID. I thought that was a COVID thing. I was just out there.
Huh.
I see.
I guess he's back. The only thing with Detroit, though, is they do got Tomas Greiss going tonight, who hasn't been very good. We talked about, of course, Hudobin being unsharp this year. The same can be said for Greiss. Greiss is a 320
Yeah.
goals against and a 907. He hasn't. Now, his team, some games, hasn't played well in front of him. I will say that to give him the benefit of the doubt in some games, but he hasn't looked like the Tomas Greiss that's been a good, consistent backup for most of his career whatsoever this season.
Well,
So
Larkin changes things for me a little bit. I don't know. I may because Vegas.
it doesn't for me because of Greiss. That's the reason. Like
Yeah, yeah.
if Alex Nedeljkovic was in, you know how much I liked him last year in Carolina. That would push the threshold for me or
Shea
push the
Taylor
need.
is out tonight too.
Yeah, that's always a big loss. Another underrated defenseman.
Two pretty beat up, a beat up Vegas team against the goaltender. I don't know. It's a tough one. Okay, that's our full 42. I guess we got to get out of here now for sure. Thanks for coming in, guys. I'll be back here tomorrow. Same time, same place. Peyton on the radio is supposed to come on eventually, but he's working a lot and all that kind of stuff like that. Thank you very much, Joe. Go check out Projo.
Sports Fanatic
Sports
News.
Fanatic News. You're pushing out content like crazy, I see lately. Football.
Yeah,
He doesn't
there's
just
a
do
lot of
hockey.
baseball, hockey, yeah, because the baseball off season is the free agent frenzy right now, and then I always obviously do a lot of hockey videos. So
Yeah, and well, what was I going to say? Oh, this is all part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, of course. We love the Steel Flyers All Sports Network. We're going to get some swag soon. You guys are going to be able to purchase all the swag there on Steel Flyers All Sports Network. Go check it out. Go check out the website. It's fun. And also, I want to put a shout out to Hockey News Reports. Go check out his channel too. Great guy, knows hockey inside and out.
agree.
Love him.
Yeah.
Got to check him out. All right, Joe. Thanks for coming in, my buddy. Have a great day, everybody. Lots of love to you.
Enjoy the hockey.
Okay. Bye.